Matty Graham here from Exponential Performance Coaching. Do you need to get race ready in a hurry? Do you want to boost up that endurance without spending lots and lots of time working on it? Or do you need to boost up one of your specific disciplines that's letting you down? Today I want to talk about an advanced training method that I use a lot with athletes called crash training. Now before we check out that, make sure you hit the subscribe button over here. By doing this, you're going to get instant notifications whenever I upload a new video. I've got lots of new videos in the pipeline, so make sure you hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out on them. So let's take a look at this crash training and see what it's all about. Today I want to share with you an advanced training technique that I often use with athletes that I work with called crash training. And hopefully you better use this in your own training if it is needed. So crash training, what's it all about? Well, traditionally our periodization approach is a nice linear model. We work on our base first, then build on our strength and then speed to finish with. Or we can approach it in a more multi-tiered approach where we work on everything at the same time. I've got more information about those in the Performance Temple Handbook that you can download for free, so I'll put a link over here and you can go and check that out. Both of these models are very nice in theory, but sometimes I get athletes coming into my office, and they need to get fit quickly, or how they're training or their competition schedule means that these two don't really fit in very well, with their training. So we have to manipulate it a little bit, and crash training cycles are a way to do that. Now the crash training sort of idea works on our traditional stress recovery cycle in that we add a training stress that makes them worse initially, and then the super compensation from that improves their performance, and that's what we're after with the crash training cycle. As we'll see soon, having a crash training cycle, what we do is just really load it up here so it drives them deep down, and then we get a big super compensation, but we have to be careful about the way we do that. So what I've got is I've got sort of three specific situations where you'd use crash training to target a specific thing. And the first one is getting race ready in a hurry. So often I'll have people come to me and they've either been on a waiting list for a race and then they've got on the start line, or often what happens in adventure racing teams, someone gets pulled into a team at the last minute, or something crops up and you need to be fit in a hurry. And often this happens and you don't have much time. So how do you get race ready in a short amount of time? Often we use this crash training, so if we've got about 4 to 6 weeks, which is usually the sort of typical time, is if you really load up the duration of the training and the intensity of the training, so crank both of those up, which both of those crank up the volume. If we do that for 4 to 6 weeks with a few recovery phases in there as well, what you're able to do is arrive on the start line extremely fit and ready to race. By cranking up the intensity, we really develop the anaerobic threshold, the sort of top end VO2 max power, and our duration sort of refreshes that endurance base. So that's getting race ready in a hurry is the first situation that I use crash training cycles. The second is if an athlete is following a sort of high intensity interval training plan, such as the Time Saver cycling program that I've designed. You can check that out over here if you want to see more about that. So they're doing that sort of Time Saver training, they're sort of time poor with their training, so they're doing repeated high intensity intervals. Because they're doing that, their endurance base can start to fade a little bit. So having a couple of endurance crash cycles in the training every sort of couple of months, where they just do, say, a big weekend, or potentially a big week if possible, if it's like a holiday, or you're able to juggle some time off work or get in a couple of midweek rides, then what we're able to do is if we're doing our normal repeated high intensity training through here, and then we just drop a big training load in there, a lot of over volume training during a specific week, then the body digs into this hole because it's a shock, it's not used to that training, and then we improve our endurance out of that. So if you're on a repeated high intensity sort of interval training program, then inserting some endurance crash cycles in there can be a really good way of just keeping that endurance base there while still being very smart and time efficient with your training. Now the third way we can use crash training cycles is when we want to focus on a specific discipline. So over in this example here, let's say red is swimming, black is cycling, and blue is running. If you're a triathlete, what you could do is you've got your normal training load, and then say this week here, we're just going to have a big swimming week on top of the other training. So you can put the other training on the back burner for a while, down regulate it, and really focus on your swimming. Then you get back into your sort of normal program for a while, and then jump into a big cycling block. Have a week really focusing on the bike, the other training takes a back step, and then you could do the same for a running in a few weeks' time. The other way to do that would be to just focus on, say, a weak discipline. If you've got a weak discipline that you want to bring up in a hurry, you could focus on just having a week on that, back into your normal routine, and then another week focusing on that same discipline. So you could either mix it between disciplines if you want to bring them all up to the same level, or if you want to just focus on bringing one up. So a really good way of bridging that gap, if you like, when your training and your time and your other commitments don't traditionally fall in to our sort of specific models that we plan training on. Now there are a few risks associated with this sort of crash training. As the name suggests, it's not just a crash load of training load, but if you continue it, then the risk of injury, illness, and crashing, blowing out, overtraining does exist. So it has to be managed very carefully and applied to the individual very specifically. So be aware that when you're doing this sort of increased training load, it's not a normal stepwise progression. It's a big step up. You need to be aware of injury. You need to be aware of illness. And your long-term performance can sometimes suffer. In this getting race ready in a hurry, if you're continually doing that for races, then you have to watch out for your base starting to erode underneath you. So it's not a long-term thing, it's very much a short-term fix for a very specific problem. So there you have it, crash training in a nutshell. If you've got any questions about it, please let me know. Now while we're here, don't forget to hit the subscribe button over here. I've got a lot of new videos coming out. If you hit the subscribe button, you're going to get an instant notification every time I upload a video, so you're not going to miss out on anything. If you've enjoyed this video, check out this video up the top over here. This is about foam rolling and how you can make it stop hurting so much. Or if you want to dial in that recovery nutrition, check out this video down the bottom here. This is all about why chocolate milk is such a good recovery food. So there you have it. Get out there, train harder, but most importantly, train smarter. Make the most of your time, get the results that you deserve.